Hi and welcome back to the cottage. Today's video is all about storage. What we store, where we store, how much we store, and most importantly, what the things we store say about us. The first question I want to answer is, what is storage? Generally speaking, the definition of the word tells us that it is the keeping of something to be accessed again in the future. Stored items can include digital files, physical items, or even mental information. For the purpose of today's video, I'm going to be focusing only on the physical, tangible items that we keep. Though we don't often think of it this way, essentially every item that is kept in our home, our garage, our storage sheds, and even off-site facilities is being stored. The frequency at which these things are accessed may vary, but they are all in storage. The fork in your utensil drawer that is used daily or the book on your nightstand are both as much in storage as is your wedding dress or letterman's jacket that have been packed away for years. Knowing what storage is can also help us answer the question of why we store. Think about it for a minute. There would be no point in us keeping these items in a safe, protected place if we didn't think there was a chance we would ever see or touch them again. Like I said, many of the things that we store are being used every single day, so much so that we don't even recognize them as being stored at all. But there also tends to be quite a bit that isn't used nearly as often. I would say that there are four main categories of this type of stored item. Number one, seasonal or rarely used. Think Christmas decorations, warm or cool weather specific clothing, the fine china. You see them sometimes, but not year round. Number two, unfinished business. This category contains things like partially started craft projects and boxes that got moved, but never quite unpacked. Number three, what ifs and just in case items. Included in this group would be things saved because you think you might use them later, such as sporting gear, or duplicates of other items you have to eventually pull out as the backup. And number four, the big one, memories. Photo albums, your child's first pair of shoes, bowling trophies, and so much more. Most people seem to have a mix of all four of these categories in different amounts. But here's what's interesting. The way that we choose to store these items varies quite a bit, and it really can make a huge difference on the way a person's home and life is perceived. Now, many of you know that I have a background in residential architecture and I design houses. In fact, I designed our house. So it probably won't surprise you to know that I enjoy watching videos about houses here on YouTube. One video I was watching recently was by a creator named Kendra Gaylord. She has a quirky channel about architecture and how it relates to pop culture, and also a podcast called Someone Lived Here. I find both very interesting. Kendra did this thing where she watched 151 of the Architectural Digest open door house tours, which is essentially when celebrities walk around their own homes, showing it off and explaining it, and also sharing some of the special things that make it unique. What stood out to Kendra after viewing all of these house tours was the sheer abundance of space, many of them over 8,000 square feet of living area. Some celebrities even got lost while giving the tour of their own homes. Interestingly, she noted that while many of the celebs had very few things to say about the common spaces of their homes, the living room, dining room, and even the kitchen, they really got excited and had a lot more words to describe one particular space, the storage. While the rest of the house, all that square footage, may have seemed generic and basic even, styled to appeal to the masses, the storage rooms were alive with memories. Some of these rooms were packed with boxes, and in others, the items and collections were on full display. In either situation, the items kept here were personal, and as such, the rooms had personality. These rooms were unique, even if the house itself was kind of boring. And in the end, after viewing all 151 of these home tours, Kendra said that there were only about a handful that really stood out to her. They were the homes where the personal items of these celebrities weren't stuffed into one magical space, but rather filtered and displayed throughout the entire home in a very collected and natural way. Now, I'm positive that their homes contain storage items from all 4 of the categories that I previously mentioned, but it's interesting that they only chose to point out those that had connected memories. I'm going to move on now to thoughts about how much we store. Obviously, the great majority of people in the world do not live in celebrity-sized houses. We don't have enough space to allocate an entire room to our memories. But generally speaking, even without huge houses, it's been the tendency to store basically as much as we are able to in appropriate storage spots. The basement and attic are usually the first prospective spots, then garages, and eventually, if we still have more we want to store, we might build a shed or even pay for storage off-site. That is, unless we do one of 2 things. Number 1, allow the excess to spill out past the storage spaces and into the other main living areas of our homes, or 2, do some actual mindful decluttering of what we have. The first approach of just letting it all go and losing control of your home can lead to hoarding. If you've ever watched an episode of the popular TV show Hoarders, you'll know what I'm talking about. Of course, these are extreme cases. Hoarding is a mental health disorder, and in no way am I saying that we should watch the series as a way to mock or insult those who are dealing with this. These types of shows can be very insightful for us though, as they give us a glimpse into the mind of someone who has taken a specific pattern or behavior, a common one really, of keeping all the things that we have space for and gone too far. Truth be told, we all have our own saving tendencies. Yours might be pictures, mine might be saving all of the art that my kids brought home from school, and others may take to saving receipts. The bottom line is that if these tendencies aren't kept in check, they can very well become much more serious. I'm sure you're familiar with the phrase, "you are what you eat." This small group of words reminds us that if we continue to put garbage food into our bodies, we're going to feel like garbage ourselves. We can't expect otherwise. Let's turn the table on that popular phrase into "you are what you store." And again, consider this. Not everyone has the mental health issue of hoarding, but keeping more than we can manage, both mentally and physically, can make us feel sick. Of course, we all have different tolerances regarding how much we want to surround ourselves with in our homes. But we need to remember that whether we choose to keep a little or a lot, it is really important to think about what we are storing. Everything that you store and keep is based on you. They serve your needs, they spark your memories, they even make your life more comfortable or exciting. But these things certainly are not you. You could have an entire home filled with items that, after your passing, mean absolutely nothing to anyone else. That sounds a little bit harsh, but it's the truth. We talked about the show Hoarders, which is pretty popular, but another less known show called The Legacy List can also help us keep our storage in check. Interestingly, the host of this show, Matt Paxton, was often featured on the show Hoarders as a decluttering expert. The difference between these 2 shows, though, is night and day. While on the show Hoarders, Matt works to clear away the excess as a means to keep the homeowner from some type of fine or mental crisis, usually somewhat against their wishes. On the Legacy List, he's helping people who are downsizing identify special items that they want to keep and ultimately pass down to future generations. As the title of the show suggests, they want to leave a legacy. The people on the show are asked to identify 5 items that represent their history or are very special to them, and they're usually able to do this quite effortlessly. The problem is they don't always know where in the home that these items are located because they have too much stuff. And so Matt's team helps box up the items for downsizing while keeping an eye out for these special 5 items. And once they're found, the stories begin to be told. All of the history of these items and why these things are special begin to flood out. This process actually reminds me a lot of Swedish death cleaning in that you want the stories behind these objects, these special things, to be either written down or told so that the memories and the legacy can live on. On a personal note, my grandmother passed away in November at the age of 99. She was an amazing woman who lived in the home that my grandfather had built for them until her very last day. And her children are now doing the difficult work of going through all of her belongings in an effort to prepare the house for a potential future sale. And it is a lot of work because my grandma liked to keep just about everything. She fully admitted it herself. She loved being surrounded by all of her trinkets and her own type of beauty. But my grandma was also an amazing storyteller, and so the memories behind the special items are very well preserved. And this is making it somewhat easier, I think, to say goodbye to some of the less meaningful items in the home. So here's my call to action in this video. Let people know about the things that are important to you, those items that you hold sacred. And if it truly is special, don't put it away in a box and forget about it. Put it on display for everyone to see. Share the stories, share the memories behind the items. Also, don't just store something because you have the space for it or because you think it has potential to be used in the future. Don't let the things that you store, how much you store, where you store it, why you store it, tell the story about you as a person. Who you are should determine what you store. And that means you have a choice. You can choose to keep something or not. Because you are not what you store. You are so much more. Ponder on that. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope that you'll stop by the cottage again really soon.